Good day and welcome to the Frontline Chatter podcast. I am your host, Jarian Gibson, and I am back with Janna White. How you doing today, Janna?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing pretty good. It's getting that time of year. We just got hit with snow and, all the school fun stuff, but doing well. Getting that time of the
Snow
year when things are
day.
kind of slowing down.
Yeah.
You doing well, though? No issues there? Did you get our weather coming your
We
way?
got a lot of cold. That's about it so far. I haven't seen any white stuff yet.
If you haven't seen it yet, it's already passed. We got it Sunday and Monday, but Thursday or Friday, you're going to get our frigid cold coming through here. So
Well,
look forward
thank
to
you.
that. Yeah.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our guest today. We have Omnissa on with us, and Omnissa is one of our founding partners of the World of EUC. And we have Jen Godwin and we have Brian Link. So I'll go ahead and hand over to you first, Jen. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, guys. My name is Jen Godwin. I'm a community program manager here at Omnissa, and have been, tied in with World of EUC since the get as a founding partner. So it's really exciting to actually be on here and get to chat with y'all today.
Well, thank you for coming on today with us, Jen. And I'll go to Brian Link next.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Brian Link. I am a product CTO for the Americas here at Omnissa, which is a fun title, which means I wear a lot of different hats and help inform our product and platform strategy along the way. So glad to be
That's why
here.
I get to loop them into things like this. It's great.
Nice. Well, thank you both for joining us. And thank you again to Omnissa for supporting the World of EUC and being one of our founding partners. So for our listeners who don't really know about Omnissa or are looking to switch from their current solution over to Omnissa, kind of give us an overview. I was at Omnissa 1 in the Americas, and it felt like Omnissa is Omnissa now after all the changes and stuff. It was a really great event. So kind of tell us about Omnissa and those for listeners who are looking at a different solution or they don't know about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Omnissa is probably the oldest, newest solution you'll find out there, right? So we first showed up, quite some time back, right? So I think a lot of people may know us as VMware or even recall some of the AirWatch days, some of these other things. So we've been around for a long time. We are now a fully independent company and branded as Omnissa. So you probably recognize the way we present ourselves in the market, through brands like Horizon or brands like Workspace ONE. And then we have a number of, EUC-centric solutions, whether that comes through, our UEM capabilities, our DEX capabilities, access, and, all the things, right? So we show up quite a bit. And I think you're right. Now, I rejoined Omnissa in March. I actually joined VMware as a product leader back in 2018. But I rejoined this year, and I can tell you that the tone and tenor from what I felt at Omnissa 1 was one that felt like we had really harnessed, the identity and really established not just here's our name and here are the brand colors and here's what you might expect in terms of the way we look and show up in blogs, but what are we about? Like, really, what's the philosophy in terms of like how we show up in the tools that we build, how we show up in the solutions we provide? So, we're a pretty broad and extensive platform for any and all EUC capabilities. So,
Awesome. Well, on that note, I mean, congrats on a successful, Omnissa 1 Grand Tour. So give us some details on your thoughts and perceptions on that global event.
Sure. First off, I'll say I'm tired. I'm sure Jen's tired.
I didn't even have to go to Tokyo
or anything.
We started in Vegas, and then we went to Amsterdam, and then I got back just right before Thanksgiving from Tokyo. So we've been around the world. It's truly global. Omnissa 1 in Vegas was our sort of global, coming out event, and then we took it on the road. And then I've also done we've done a few webinars online for the masses that weren't able to show up. But it was pretty great. I mean, listen, it was amazing connecting with that many customers. There was a tremendous amount of attendance and participation. It was highly interactive. People seemed to be really excited about what we were showing and where we were going.
Which area
I think
had the highest engagement that you saw so far?
I don't know if it's particular to a specific area. I think it was really around the Omnissa platform, right? Like, I think historically, people may have misunderstood what we were doing. And I don't know that we did ourselves any favors in some respects, like just thinking of us as different solutions, right? And even like if you think about some of the tools that we might compete with out in the market, they often express themselves as point solutions like Intune or NextThink or whatever thing. It does a specific job. We have a platform, right? And so we deliver a platform story. And that doesn't mean that we have this sort of curio cabinet of, misfit toys that exist together because we threw them in the same box. It's literally the same sort of microservice enable end-to-end experiences with its data to complement those solutions. So if I'm going to build, I don't know, a deployment process, right? I can have that informed by data from experience or environmental data or data from our UEM, and so being able to almost change the conversation away from here's a UEM feature or a DEX feature to here's a business problem I'm trying to solve. Right? I don't have a Windows problem. I have a business. And here's how we can show up and take that from cradle to grave and do that across the platform. So I think the platform story is one that a lot of folks, another that we heard energy around was the way that we think about this sort of, new hotness of AI and the flash in the pan sort of capabilities there, and how we maybe have a different look in terms of, how we want to show up there as maybe using AI as yet another quiver, or arrow in the quiver, right? Less so about this thing where we're going to go take everything we already do and go make it AI. Like that doesn't seem meaningful, right? It doesn't solve a problem, but things, we absolutely want to show up there. And quite frankly, how a lot of the work that we've been doing along the way that our customers are aware of, our replatforming of our platform, all the things we've been doing sort of accrue to where we are now, with this advent of AI, and how the work we've done in the past makes it very easy for us to leverage these capabilities at a fundamental level, like not as a bolt-on, Copilot-y stitched on thing. It's in the DNA of the product, right? So we can do things at a macro level that might be more difficult for others out there in the market that haven't done, that level of replatforming, or done the work to sort of get to that integrated point. So a lot of excitement there, but generally speaking, I don't know that I couldn't point to a specific area and say that there wasn't some level of, of excitement or a line out the door of folks wanting to talk about it more, which to me is a great problem to have, other than the fact that there's only one of me.
Yeah, I'll say congratulations to you all as well. I was at the US one in Vegas. It was a great event. I had the opportunity to co-present with some of the Omnissa team as well. And just the conversations and seeing all the crowds there, and even the Solutions Expo, it was a very great event to be at. So congratulations. I know I had coworkers at Amsterdam as well, and they gave some good feedback along with Tokyo also. So I know it's not easy doing that, especially doing that in 3 different geos as well, and getting the teams and the coordination. So, again, congrats on a successful event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And speaking of some of the solutions, so I noticed I was at the US one, and during the keynote, Workspace One was definitely front and center in the keynotes for Omnissa One. So there are a lot of updates, a lot around IT consolidation, centralized management. So can you kind of dive in those a little bit and tell us about those?
Yeah, the way that we framed the conversation in Vegas, and it's not unique to Vegas. We talk about this, just typically when we have the talk track with our customers about our product, really does align to these sort of 3 pillars, right? The first is this notion of being able to consolidate without compromise. The other 2, for those that are interested, is what is that we really do foster an open ecosystem mentality. We want to integrate as much as possible with those investments folks make. And then third is really relying on, these core capabilities, core platform elements that, leverage capabilities like AI and such at the core. But in terms of consolidation, when we talk about where we show up and we look at a lot of the problems that our customers try to solve, they're trying to figure out how to not have to leverage these bolt-on capabilities in addition to, whatever management platform they may be using or whatever DEX platform they may be using, right? So, a lot of folks have to buy add-ons for frontline or specialized devices, or, Apple device management, or, real-time reporting, employee experience, right? Like incident response, all these different places that show up, and they all have an additional cost, right? we do most of these things natively, and we do them, in a way that's heterogeneous, by design. And our goal is not really to, check a number of boxes in terms of showing up on as many platforms as possible, uh, just by doing the bare minimum, right? If we go into a specific platform vertical, then we want to be the best of breed there. That's the intention. And in many cases, I think we meet and or excel at that bar, right? And so when we talked about the consolidation story, we really talked about it in the journey that an admin or a UC customer may go through in terms of what they deal with in their world, right? So, we start with onboarding. How can we help you there? And we talked about a number of features we delivered in that space, whether it's our new onboarding workflows or some of the, ability to automatically spin up and down, VMs and whatnot. We went into, day two. How do I deal with my day two mechanics, right? So we've made a number of announcements about what we've done for Windows and Apple and Android and all the things, including, new capabilities in IoT and all the new devices and platforms we support. Server management as well, right? Really just kind of going through and saying, well, if I've got a customer coming to me saying, hey, I want to move away from old school SCCM, but I can't do that because I still need to leverage it to manage my server ecosystem. Well, that's a problem. And that was a problem that I even brought up to VMware at the time when I was a customer, because I started on the other side of the class, right? And then we got into, what about your apps? How do we show up there, right? And, whether it's using our enterprise app repos to automatically subscribe to these app updates and have them come through preconditioned, pre-provisioned, have those scripts for onboarding and outboarding the app already built in with an array of like almost 10,000 apps at this point that you just get by design. And then even extending that beyond Windows and saying, hey, Windows is here now, and then, Mac and Google platforms coming soon, Linux platforms coming soon as well. And then, how do we show up with like our app virtualization story, right? Our app virtual game is pretty strong, right? And so, bringing things like app, to app feed to virtual to physical, coming, and all these other things that are coming forward there. And then we really rounded it out with talking about experience, right? How do we show up for the users? How do we even take that experience data and go beyond just your sentiment, right? And then security. How do we make sure you can do all of those things in a way that feels safe, a way that feels like it's protecting the investments that both your company is making and your IP, but also ensuring that your customers themselves, like they're protected through these services. And so that's the gamut by which we kind of talk about all the services we offer. And each of those they're not explicitly framed to say, hey, I'm going to do this thing because if I do this, then I can take out X technology. It just happens to be that most of these technology additions exist because the other platforms or products that they were using don't have a solution at all, or don't have a solution that's meaningful or that fits their enterprise requirements. And so that's really kind of how we approach this consolidation story. And that's why we say consolidate without compromise. I don't want you to have to give up on features or suddenly pay out the nose for it just because you want to reduce, the tool sprawl that you have in your environment. I don't want to come to you with soft costs saying, here's how you can reduce, your operations within your org. Because the reality is, I'm not going to go ask anybody to go redline their employees because they buy our technologies. I am going to tell you that you can probably automate many of those functions and start to unlock potential within your employees to go focus on more valuable moments within your enterprise. But, when we talk about consolidation without compromise, we're pretty convicted in that, when we do it, when we talk about these things, we do it in a way that really completes the narrative arc that our customers require when they think about the business problems they're facing. So I don't know if that helps to kind of ground what we mean and what we were going for. And, that's just a framework by which you'll continue to see feature velocity around. But it'll probably be less around like, here's the shiny new feature or the shiny new button that exists in our product. It's more around, here are these new solutions that we offer. And they bring into focus very quickly the redundancy of like tools, right?
Yeah. I love shiny new buttons. They're so fun.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit on DEX, which digital employee experience, which is a very hot topic. It's always a big priority for any EUC platform or space. So, with that in mind, can you elaborate on how Omnissa is going to help in that, space?
Customers using DEX today. I mean, some of it is, it all started. I think we're actually kind of new to the game when it comes to DEX, but we're incredibly strong. We exceed in most quadrants there. Definitely leaders in the space. But it really started with customers saying, like, I need more information around what's happening in my environment, right? I need more lower level fidelity detail, what's happening on these endpoints. And so we started to manifest things like insights, right? So we can give you point in time information, what's happening, where is it happening, how do we provide you measurements, whatever. Then it was like, cool, you're giving me all this information, but what do I do with that, right? How do I get to what's causing these anomalies, or where is it coming from? So then we built things like root cause analysis and guided root cause, right? As a matter of fact, with our RCA capabilities, we had a customer in Texas, a healthcare customer, and they were facing a real problem where they had these rampant blue screens across thousands of devices within their ecosystem. It took them quite a bit of time to resolve it. I think it was over 2 months, if I'm recalling it properly. And they asked us in a proof of concept if we could use our DEX tools to effectively try to find the outcome that they already knew the solution for, right? They already knew the outcome of it, right? We were able to suss that out in 15 minutes with our DEX tools.
Wow.
Nice.
And so if you think about that, I mean,
days? My gosh, really?
Yeah, we're talking months. And quite frankly, these are blue screens. So you have, I don't want to be morose and say we saved lives, or you could have saved lives. I don't know what these devices were driving, but I mean, this is a healthcare environment, right? So real disruption and chasing these things down, it's a lot of potential, pain that could be inflicted and have a lot of downstream effects that could be, significant, and so real world example of how that shows up. But we've been doing that. That's something we shipped a long time ago. And then, post RCA, they said, well, I need to figure out how to turn this into action and turn it into remediation. And that's where you see things like Freestyle with workflows, where we can take these signals and then take these guided RCAs and then tie those to an outcome. And that outcome isn't linear because the world doesn't work that way. We can tie it to sets of conditions and make sure you don't need a degree in scripting in order to figure out. Yeah, exactly. How can we do that in a very low code, no code way so that you can go and drive these things and use the totality of what we give you. Use scripts, use APIs, use sensors, use your objects like apps and profiles and such. And then from there, people said, this is really great. I want to turn these into automated life cycles. So that's where we, started to deliver things like DEX playbooks, where those can be for admins and even, QuickBooks that go down to users. We can start to give them to help desk. They can be purpose-driven. They can be routines, And then now we're really focusing on how do we get to data-driven change management, right? So can I help you use data and heuristics to help you design your deployment rings or, your agentic rules within the environment? And how do I start to plug those into other places like vulnerability defense? If I've got a third-party signal from CrowdStrike coming in saying you have a vulnerability, cool. I can also tie that in with DEX data and with UEM data, and then through that manifest remediations that can then be exacted by, our workflow capabilities. And I can even punch out to other third-party tools like your ServiceNow or your whatever else. So we start to get away from the bespoke, traditional experience problems and start to really say, what's the difference or the daylight between a signal that comes from an experience tool, a security tool, or a management tool, right? They're all just signals. So it's really around what's the intent. How do I wrap those, use those together and figure out what the outcome is we're driving towards? And that's where it becomes very interesting and why, again, I lean back on the power of us having a platform. It's where it's a strength.
Yeah, because having a platform, you can tie all that together and then making those employees more efficient, find those issues faster, not having to spend hours and overtime and all that stuff on trying to find something. Being able that 15 minutes, especially in healthcare, anything you can do to resolve something quickly can help a lot of things down the line, whether it's the getting the right medication, anything like that, and that could impact someone's life too. So,
yeah, and it shows up in ways that aren't materially obvious to folks, right? I go back to like deployment rings for one, right? So old school IT used to be, I'm going to set up these rings, right? And the first ring is this set of like friends and family, like who's on the same row that I'm sitting on. I look down the aisle. Does anybody have a problem? No. Right. And then like that doesn't really help you. It just, you kind of have this illusion of safety because all the people that are in the same building as you, which also probably all look and act and work the exact same way as you, they're all fine. So everything must be fine. Right. And then you kind of do like, okay, I'm going to expand to the building and hope nobody screams at me. And then eventually you go, I guess we're good for the world. But the reality is like, that's not how any of this works on like a global scale or even like just on the micro scale, right? So we can now give you this ability to say, when you do a deployment, you set up these rings that, they can be informed by percentages or they can be informed by static values. And it can be from, management details. It can be time-based, or we can bring in experience things. So if I go and deploy something to you, I can say, not only does 95% of my ecosystem that's in that ring now have meet the bar with, they got the object, they got the app, they got whatever it was. Also, there's been no increase in latency. There's been no increase in blue screens. These sort of things that are a bit more esoteric and harder to track down until you're kind of, until it's too late, right? They become part of the criteria for even moving forward. And then when you move those forward, you can say, I want to be in control. I want to manually do this, or I want to automate this. And so you start to change the conversation around, how you use this information in a way that's more meaningful to start to impact like business process, right? And that's where, again, we just think about it differently. So sure, we can do all the things. You want to go do a side-by-side with us in a Next Thinker or whatever. We can do the Coke Pepsi thing. But what's more interesting to me is to figure out what are the less obvious opportunities that we now unlock by virtue of having access to either these actions or this data, and even just having the context of what's a user doing, like what's meaningful to you in your world. Where are you when you're doing these things, right? Whether I want to use that from a security perspective or how do I make you whole based off of what your needs are, like it's just a different way of showing up. And quite frankly, I think it's what customers really want and expect from companies like ours.
Janna, were you going to chime in there, or were you good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, just making sure. So
you just have to hit the off button. Sorry, I just tend to talk.
You're good.
I'm going.
I might have cut her off on accident, so I was making sure she was good. But the next thing here, you guys are expanding your ecosystem support too, as well. And I know one of it has impacted me in my day to day because I've been doing a lot of testing and working with your team as well on this. So kind of tell us about your ecosystem expansion that you announced as well, because it's great to see that you guys are kind of opening up to more where traditionally you've kind of been locked into one. Now you're able to go do what you want and work with others.
Yeah, one of the beauties of being independent is that we really are in a position where we can play with everyone. Which is what we want. Certainly there are places where we compete, but the reality is our customers have a lot of investments and far be it for me to say, hey, throw them out. It's actually my problem to say, like, how do I make sure that I can help you maximize those in addition to what we offer, right? So there's a number of places where we showed up. We actually didn't announce this in Vegas, so you guys may have missed this, but this happened in Amsterdam and Tokyo. We announced our Secure Access Suite, which we partner with Google for Chrome Enterprise. That's a new area for us. We talked about how we expanded Horizon 8 support, to Nutanix, HP. We expanded, the Horizon Cloud Platform to Platform 9 support, for customers that are interested there. Expanded support for Horizon Cloud on vSphere for those folks that are still leveraging vSphere. Expanded partnerships with folks like NVIDIA, right? I talked about CrowdStrike, so we did a pretty interesting demo on stage, I think, where we actually take signals from CrowdStrike directly, and we can create these vulnerability, workflows within the product directly. We also announced for our folks over, probably more consequential for our folks in Europe and abroad, the Omnissa Sovereign solution, where we partner with folks like Gemma to create sovereign hosting options for folks that want to leverage services like ours, but really have those regulatory or sovereign requirements. So there's a number of places where we showed up in addition to kind of where we already partner, right? We partner with Apple, we partner with Microsoft, we partner with all the people. But there was a lot of areas where we got a little bit deeper in terms of new partnerships that we've struck. And the way that we're viewing it is these are just an accelerant, right? Our goal is to really continue to ramp these partnerships up and continue to come forward more and more as we have. And the list that we have already is pretty long in terms of who we play with. And even if you go to their tools now, if you go to CrowdStrike, for example, you'll go see runbooks that are specific to Omnissa, right? I mean, it's not just expressed through our product. Sometimes it's a bit more abstracted than that exists in their products as well, which is fantastic, right? We have you can, if you've used our product at all, and you know about our ITSM connector to ServiceNow, like we have a meaningful connector into ServiceNow to where you can take things from us and build them over to them. I'm not doing something like our competitors might do, where we take ServiceNow data and put that into our platform, because I just don't have the hubris to think that your help desk is also an admin within, Workspace ONE UEM or whatever. I just don't think the world works that way. I believe that it's more meaningful to show up, where you are, like let me meet you where you are rather than me try to pull you into where I want you to be. I don't think the world works that way. So I'm not sure if there's a specific, partnership or ecosystem ad that comes to mind that you wanted to get into deeper, but those are.
Have you had a lot of positive cooperation with these partners?
Yeah, I mean, we have tremendous cooperation. I mean, people are very excited about the potential and opportunities. I mean, we're not an unknown quantity, right? People may be less familiar with our name as Omnissa, but they know our brands. And if anything, a lot of the areas where we maybe didn't have some obvious partnerships before were probably self-imposed, right? It may just not have been something that was in VMware's best interest at the time or whatever the thing was. And then other areas where we've just really unlocked a lot of opportunity by virtue of, our replatforming from our older UEM architecture and, into this more modern sort of control plane, microservices-based ecosystem that really extends beyond UEM. That gives us a lot of autonomy in terms of who we want to integrate with and how we integrate and how we can provide meaningful, sort of hardened, integrated experiences in those spaces as well. So yeah, a lot of excitement. Plenty of things I can't talk about. Sorry, maybe next year. But yeah, I mean,
there's a preview.
There's a lot.
Well, hey, if the listeners want any, a little bit more of a deep dive into one of our ecosystem areas, we are actually doing a webinar on December 10th, which might be after this comes out or before this comes out, but the VOD will still be on our website on the Omnissa Secure Access Suite. So December 10th, head to community.omnissa.com and you can find our webinar on that, going in a little bit more in depth.
Awesome.
Very nice.
For me, I have a personal investment because our company is actually getting our feet wet with Horizon Cloud on Azure. So we're moving to try out that platform as our new VDI solution. So what is it? What are some things that you can give us, like pitfalls or something that we need to keep in mind going forward on transition that way?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any major pitfalls specific to Horizon Cloud on Azure. I think, anytime that you're looking to change, right, you are obviously beholden to the hosting platform's rules and the way that they move things about. But that doesn't really impact our experience. But I mean, I wouldn't expect Azure not to feel like Azure. I wouldn't expect AWS or whatever to not feel like AWS, Nutanix not to feel like Nutanix. I'm not aware of any meaningful, pitfalls per se. I think they've been a great partner, and we're seeing a lot of positive response in terms of what we're seeing there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say in general, just make sure like your landing zone and your networking, any kind of connectivity back into your on-prem pieces is there. Anything with cloud, those are usually the pitfalls, and that's not solution specific.
Yeah.
That's just cloud specific, and making sure you have all that
that's right
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's an Azure problem, and I don't think that's a Omnissa problem. I think that's if you've got a cloud and you're connecting to it, then you got to make sure that you're comfortable with, and knowledgeable about, how you're going to get there. And your mileage varies, right? In terms of like how everybody does things. And so it depends on what your business requirements are. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the partnership itself, I mean, we're excited about it.
So can I have your phone number so I can call you for any issues that comes up? That'd be my
Sure.
hotline.
I can give you a phone number. I'm sure you guys can find me. I feel like I'm very attainable.
It's, at the very least, they can find me, and I know how to bother Brian.
That's true. If you found Jen, then you probably found me, because otherwise Jen will be yelling at me daily, which feels highly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Kind of going in here. So you did touch on the Google Chrome Enterprise stuff.
Yep.
And we know that, BYOD, and then also making sure that getting security and access back to resources they need is a big thing. Do you want to go any deeper on the Google announcement with on that with BYOD and Google Chrome Enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, it's browser-based access to enterprise apps with advanced security, right? I mean, that's the pitch. But I mean, if you're familiar with Chrome Enterprise, then what you're getting is that safe browsing and those user activity reports, and you get that DLP that comes within that, and it comes without necessarily the premium of having to over enroll your environment into traditional management frameworks. I would argue that they're sort of like peanut butter and jelly. They work even better whenever you're doing all the things. But we offer a very unique partnership in the fact that we're able to complement the services that they have. They're able to complement the services we have. And then I expect that we'll be maturing, deeper levels of integrations between those stories as time progresses. So we have a lot of folks that are very, very interested in that. And it's, it could be because they want, faster onboarding of users across BYO, or contractors, or M&A use cases, right? Maybe they want greater data security controls for, SaaS or enterprise apps, right? There's a number of reasons that, why, but it just gives you that flexibility, for your users without having to risk, the data protections that you might require as an enterprise. And it's, if you got regulatory compliance, you have, sensitive PII or credit cards, whatever the thing is, right? You want to share across AI tools, right? Doing that within an enterprise browser construct is going to give you that full level of control without necessarily having to overstep or, your boundaries in terms of what might be available to you on the actual device or endpoint, So everybody wins in that space. And so it only makes sense that we would, offer capabilities that complement that given where we play.
Yeah. And you touched on the AI. Speaking of AI, which is the buzzword now, is, there is Agenix services is being implemented more and more in the EUC workspaces. So how is Omnissa taking advantage of that now?
Yeah. So our AI story, we really kind of, I think last year, I wasn't here whenever we originally did it, but I believe at Omnissa 1 last year, our first one, we sort of unveiled the way that we think about the AI journey and where our customers can expect us to show up with AI elements across the product. And so for those who aren't familiar, it really does go across these 4 pillars. The first being alert, right? So this is where we show you information within the console or elsewhere, and those may be driven by AI. Not exclusively, right? Some of them may be ML, some of them may be other capabilities, but AI shows up there, right? So things like insights, right? Then you've got advise. So how do I take that data and turn those into more meaningful insights that go beyond just sort of a point in time moment and help you understand the totality of what's going on, like guided RCAs, like we talked about earlier. We leverage ML, we leverage AI capabilities to sort of drive to that. Then we have assist, and this is kind of where large language models come into it. And you think about, how do I start to use natural language to interface with Omnissa platform services? We do that through an assistant that we call Omni. So that's what our little interface is called. And through that, you can, using natural language, go figure out like anything you need to about the Omnissa platform. How do I configure a profile, whatever. You can go get access to Omnissa support documentation. It's also generative, right? I want to create a script. I don't know how to create a script. Can you help me create a script for this? Can you help me create a sensor, right? And then even generate like a workflow from there using Freestyle, right? Like take these things and you can start from the beginning. Like I want to go find information. Show me all the devices I have in my ecosystem. This is how many you have. How many are Windows? They look like this. Cool. How many are on Dells? Narrow it down. And then eventually you take that and go, let's tie those into how many are experiencing X, Y, or Z, right? And then help me build a workflow to go solve for that, right? So you can tie all these things together in a way that follows you across the platform. So you may start in UEM, and then that might guide you to access to go set something up, right? But that doesn't mean you have to go start over your Omni session. It just kind of follows you. It's persistent across the platform. Finally, the pillar that I think everybody's talking about in the world, but that we're obviously the most excited about, and it's been part of our story for a long time, is this idea of autonomy. We've always been driving towards this idea of autonomous workspaces, right? The idea that you can have self-healing, self-securing, self-configuring endpoints in your ecosystem. And that's where agentic services start to manifest for us. And so, I mentioned a few times we've done work across the platform to really change everything over into these microservices to become more modern in terms of how we express ourselves. We have object-oriented architectures. So we have, we treat applications and scripts and all these things as objects within the ecosystem. We can support all open APIs. So now we've got all these different building blocks, Lego blocks that we're aware of. We have signals coming in, and we have a unique vantage point in that we can bring them all together. And we can do that through our agentic services. So we talked earlier about vulnerability defense. One of the initial agentic capabilities that we're coming forward with is actually an agentic version of vulnerability defense. So not only now do I have signals coming in from a third party, direct from NIST, or whatever the case may be, and I can tell you, here's how you can resolve it with UEM. I can actually take that and turn that into a plan of action, right? And then I can have you, as the customer, look at that plan of action, review every step. I think the one I showed was a 4-step process where we say, we noticed that, Global Protect has a CVE associated with it. It's cool. I got to go get the new version of Global Protect, right? Because I got the new version of Global Protect, I got to target it with the workflow, right? The workflow has to be this. I need a script for cleanup, and I'm going to sequence all these things together. And then I want to use these deployment rings. And so we can stitch all of that together. You tell us if we're right. You have control every step of the way. You want to add additional steps. You want to modify the steps. You want to eliminate a step. You have full control. But then you can assign that back to us, and we'll just do it. So I think the demo I showed on stage probably was a couple minutes long, but the reality is it's 4 clicks of a button. Next, unless there's real work to be done. The reason why it's simple, but we're doing it in such a way that's let's call it semi-autonomous, right? By design, right? I want you to always be in control. I think it's absolutely crazy to think that I'm going to come into your environment and just perfectly know exactly what you're going to need, and I'm just going to go light it up. I don't think any of our customers are going to say, let me go flip this switch on and let you just automate all the things, especially when it comes to, controls as powerful as you get with, some that come with ours, without any kind of oversight or without any kind of desire to or requirement to be in the middle of that. And so we give you the controls to do whatever you want. So it's sort of like a self-driving car. You want to have your hand on the wheel. You want to turn off all the features. You can do it. You can get there fast. It's still a great car. Everything works about it. You want to automate some pieces of it, but less, some places you're not as comfortable. That's fine, right? But the value of all of this is now we can show up in ways that are less obvious, right? So typically your relationship is I go to the platform to find out what's going on in my world, and then I solve things based off of what I see there. Now, when we have these services that are kind of like routinely running and working on your behalf, I can come tell you wherever you may be. Maybe you're on the beach. Hopefully you're not on the beach when I'm calling you, but we're showing up and saying like, hey, listen, there's a thing that you might want to pay attention to. Do you want me to take care of it for you? Or do you want to get, deeper line of sight? Or you want me to come back to you later? Whatever the thing is, right? It becomes a digital extension of your team. And I think that's the goal, right? So that's how we think about these agentic services. And if you take a step back, like even in that solution that I demoed at Omnissa One, the blocks that like are required in order just to solve for that one thing, there's not a ton of daylight between that and a, patch management app deployment solution or a software recovery solution. Like it's 90% of the same DNA, right? And so the level of effort that we have to go build the next set of solutions based off of where we're starting becomes really small. And so I love to get more with less, right? So if I can build something that I think people really respond to, but also in doing so, really set myself up to move really, really quickly past that and do that in an exponential level. The next way beyond that unlocks more and more and more. It's a way that we can show up and really deliver on, the promise of what I think people imagine when they think about these autonomous workspaces, right? So it's not even a new story we're telling. It's the same story we've been telling for years. It's just, now as we've been going down this journey, we can see we're us getting closer and closer to, this sort of always on, self-sufficient ecosystem. And it's really exciting. I think it's really cool. To me, like that makes more sense than saying, I'm going to go create this weird disparate agent over here that only, builds a policy. And then I got to go over here and it's going to tell me something about my mobile data. Like those are just two disjointed things. How am I making you whole? How am I making you better?
Yeah, I like the approach you're doing that too, is how you're doing all that together and, bring it all together, but also letting you, do as much you want with autonomous or pull back and get more information and make decisions based on that. One thing you mentioned too was pulling data in from different resources.
Yeah.
And we know you guys have a great community of your Omnissa Tech insiders. So are you pulling anything from the community, like saying, look, here's like an Omnissa Tech insider's answer out in the forum that's right. We're pulling that data in to help with, troubleshooting, or just from the community in general? Has that been like a data source you've thought about?
I'm going to pass this over to Jen. I think the short answer is 100% yes. Certainly something we've been thinking about and we want to do more of. But Jen, being our community leader, I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the moment, we are mainly pulling from our more official sources, right? Like our Omnissa Tech blog. Less so forum posts, right? Because for now, we want to make sure that, everything that's going into this as a source is fully vetted,
Yep.
right? But I do think that is, a longer term discussion, right? Making sure that we're getting as much information as possible. And on top of that, with our tech insiders, like you mentioned, hopefully, as we move forward, we'll continue working with them on content creation as well. I'm in talks right now as we head into the new year about how we can partner more with those like really high level users to potentially create more official content and house it on our channels like the tech blog. So the answer is yes and.
Kind of taking us. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, Jen's heard me say a number of times, like I just see this community as a powerful and I don't want to say untapped, but just, wealth of potential in terms of how we can really activate, capabilities across, the platform that we certainly are proud of, but do so in a way that really conforms to what people want out there. And quite frankly, I don't want to build everything. I think we've got a tremendous amount of headspace that's out there that we want to tap into and really understand, like, how people are solving these problems in the wild, novel ways people are using our products that we probably don't even have line of sight into, and bring that information in. I want to unlock that. I don't want that to live in some silo somewhere. So if you're out there and you're listening, just think of this as a precursor in terms of a call to action. I'm really anxious to hear from and to see some activity in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that on the community site, it's just kind of a never-ending font of opportunities to continue like growing and starting new processes, right? And really kind of tying in with all of our community.
Yeah.
And kind of speaking of community, so let's kind of take a step back. We could have jumped in. So for those who don't know, kind of tell us about the Omnissa community and the Omnissa Tech Insiders program. And also, too, you have opened up the applications for the 2026 Omnissa Tech Insiders. So kind of talk about that. And also, I want to say good luck to all the applicants as well who are applying for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting from the beginning, the community site, community.omnissa.com. Pretty sure I've said it like 3 times, so I won't remon it anymore. But that is kind of just a really great like first stop resource for a lot of Omnissa things, right? Our Omnissa technical blog is housed there. We also do a monthly webinar series, sometimes more than one per month. And I think most exciting and most importantly is our forum space, right? So we have forums for all of our various products and solutions and then just general discussion areas where, our users can go in and ask questions that are answered by not only Omnissa employees, but also by your fellow users, right? By our tech insiders, by people who are hands-on with these products every day. And they might see your question and go, oh, I solved that last week. Here's what I did. Right. And then we can mark that as the solution in the forum as well. So somebody who comes again next week to ask the same question, they'll see, oh, somebody's already answered this. This is great. And it's just like a really great resource if you're looking to get like hands-on knowledge, right? On top of that, we do have the Tech Insiders program, which is an application only program where you come in and you say, hey, I know so much about Omnissa. I use it all the time. And I post content about it, right? I blog, I help people out on social. I'm here in the forums and I'm really active. I want to be, recognized for that. And I want to be able to dive deeper by getting my hands on some trial licenses as part of the program and access to, NDA kind of confidential information. A lot of the times our tech insiders get early looks at a lot of really cool stuff through that program. And we love to have you, right? It's a great way to kind of build an even closer knit community in the EUC space and, Omnissa specifically, obviously. And really just connect with a lot of folks. And, we all share each other's content. And we're continuously working internally within Omnissa to just bring in more and more opportunities for our tech insiders as well. They are, some of just our best community members, and they're all really great. So the more we can do to make y'all's lives easier, it's great for us.
It's awesome, especially getting that, real life experience type of feedback from people that has experienced it in the same type of environment structure or, similar, work streams and things like that.
Yeah. If you've got a specific use case, there's almost certainly a tech insider who's done the same thing, right? They're customers, they're partners, they're, consultants who work with a bunch of different people. So they've probably seen it before.
Yeah, I know we have 2 on our board with Stephen Wagner and Sean Massey. So they're always talking great things about the tech insiders community.
Yeah, 3, I think. Patrick Coble, right?
Oh, yeah, 3, yes, Patrick, yes. Yeah,
just
3.
You all are great. It's fabulous.
That's good. Well, we're already in December, so we're pretty much wrapping up 2025 now. So what is Omnissa looking forward to in 2026? Do we have any type of preview for that?
Oh boy. Well, what I'll say is, yeah, go ahead.
I almost forgot, actually, the Tech Insider application process, which is something I'm really looking forward to in 2026. The applications are open until January 4th, and then we'll be reviewing them throughout the month of January, and we'll announce the next group on February 2nd, I think. If you want to see our post with all of the details, head to omnissa.link/TI26. That's 26. And that has all of the information. And I'll give this link to you guys. So hopefully it can go in the podcast description as well.
I was just going to say that. Awesome. It's like any links you want, we'll put in the blog and everything and put out there with it. So just send them over and I'll follow up with you after this too as well on that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I love the plug. Yeah, I mean, 2026. It's funny. So 2025, like for me, and you guys can keep me honest, right? You guys were there, but at least for me, it felt like we kind of came out swinging, right? Especially on Omnissa 1. And it's interesting because, like, from my vantage point, I know how much we held back, right? And so what I'm really excited about is 2026, because in my mind, this was a foundational, let me just set the table here. Let me just sort of set the tone and tenor of what we can expect going forward, right? So now those floodgates are open, right? We've set that tone, we've set that tenor, we've done the global world tour. The moment I stepped off the stage in Tokyo, I immediately was texting somebody going, cool, I can't wait to start up 2026. Let's go, right? It was just, everything we've announced, if it wasn't clear when you were there, we couldn't announce it if we weren't going to deliver it in a couple of months. And so many of the things that we talked about will already be available or limitedly available or in beta or whatever the thing is within, the next few months post when you heard it. So really next year is going to be an expansion of that. So I don't have a preview that I can share without getting into trouble or suddenly becoming a missing person somewhere. But what I can say is that 2026 is going to be big. I'm really excited about it. And I can't wait to talk about it with you guys more, whether that's earlier in the year or later in the year or whenever that might happen. So it's I wouldn't sleep on Omnissa is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, y'all have set the bar high this year, so we're expecting great things.
I viewed it as us being just transparent. This is what we're working on and how we view the world. I think we've always been so reserved in terms of like kind of what we're doing and why we do it. I say always just because it's been 2 years or a year since we've been independent, but regardless of the fact, like even back in the VMware days, we've always just been very, very reserved. And I think that, there's no reason for that. Doesn't mean that we're going to come out with hubris and have this level of arrogance, but why would we not talk about and be excited about the things we're doing? I think for me, will just be a continuation of that, an amplification of that. So
yeah, we want to shout it from the rooftops. It's all exciting.
It is exciting. So it's great to see. Like I said, I really enjoyed Omnissa 1 and Vegas and all the announcements and just seeing everything you guys are doing and have coming up here pretty soon, especially with the Horizon release next month, which I know my team's been doing a lot of work on with the Nutanix stuff. So looking forward to that and, getting 2026 off and running.
Yeah, love it.
As we close things down, any closing remarks? I'll start with Jen from you.
No, thanks for having us. This is great. It's always really, really awesome to get to do things with the World of EUC folks. So, really excited to continue next year and see y'all at your events and hopefully Omnissa 1 too.
Yeah, we really appreciate your, engagement, partnership, and just, being there whenever we ask y'all to come.
Absolutely.
Brian, any other closing remarks?
No, I mean, this is great. I appreciate you guys. It was great meeting everybody. I feel like Jen's probably signing me up to be in person at World of EUC next year.
Oh, yeah, you're stuck with us for sure. Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
Come on down.
I'm into it. Like, I always love a party, so everybody knows me. It's all good. I'm excited to do it. Listen, this has been great. It's great. I've been very gracious. I think if there's anything specifically that folks want to follow up on, you guys know where to find us. I'm happy to respond. If you guys want to do this again at some point, love to have, feel free to have me back. I'd love to do it. But thank you guys so much for the time.
Thank you. Janna, any other comments?
I've always been very a fan of Horizon. It's just one of those types of solutions that's just been stable, reliable. And I really appreciate y'all taking ownership of that and making it even better.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you to Brian and Jen for coming on today. Thank you, Janna, for co-hosting today. Just like Janna said, we appreciate the partnership and the support, and we look forward to seeing you at EUC World next year. We'll look forward to see you guys at Omnissa 1 next year. For those listening to this, make sure you go and sign up for the Omnissa community. You can get all the information, the blogs, the videos, interact with the tech insiders. If you want to be a tech insider, go sign up. You have until January 4th, so don't sleep on that over the holidays. For those of you, if you're not subscribed, make sure you go to and subscribe to our Frontline Chatter podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts at. We have the World of EUC YouTube channel as well. A couple dates coming up. Amplify Virtual is going to be April 29th of next year. Amplify in person is going to be September 29th through October 1st in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then registration and call for paper should be opening soon for both of those. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. I want to thank our sponsors, our founding partners for their continued support: Tenzig, Goliath Technologies, iGel, Liquidware, Omnissa, Nerdio, and Nutanix. Our channel founding sponsor, Choice Solutions. our core sponsors this year, Google and Parallel. So thank you all for the support. Thank you again for the Omnissa team for coming on. Really appreciate it. We hope everyone has a great holiday season. I know we just got past Thanksgiving here in the US with Christmas coming up. So everyone have a great holiday season, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks.